Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my power ranking series. For my number 15 team, we're going to be looking at the Tennessee Titans. All right, so there's some interesting things here. This is definitely the weakest part of this team. I do not know why they gave a decent contract to Jamarco Jones, but he's here, and I guess I have to note him. He wasn't really overly much of an impact for Seattle, and I really don't expect much of a change here. They also have Aaron Brewer starting over him, which I'm also not huge on, so. I mean, we'll see which one wins out, I guess, quote unquote. But there's significantly better players around them. I mean, Ben Jones is still a super solid center. He fits the scheme well. He's super familiar with it. I do like having him here. Nate Davis, up and coming guard, hasn't really reached the pinnacle, I think, of what they were hoping for here, but he's still pretty good. Gives you almost average level guard play. He's kind of between that, replaceable level starter to starter level quality of guard. He sits somewhere in the middle there, at least currently. You have Dylan Radins and the rookie Nicholas Petit Frere, who are going to be trying to compete at right tackle here. Seeing who's going to get the start. I imagine Radins is. Radins does seem to play better at left tackle, but even so, we'll see if he can kind of develop and learn the right tackle spot here. If not, I mean, they can try Petit Frere. I think he's a bit raw, though, so I wouldn't be overly enthusiastic about doing that. The Titans made a lot of moves thinking about the future this offseason, so I think that is their plan. Taylor Lewan is still a star tackle in my opinion. I think he is great. He's super aware of his own weaknesses and how to hide those weaknesses when going against Supreme Edge players. I mean, we've seen games where he's gotten beat pretty bad, and when different guys down the line in future games try to do the same thing against him, he's able to handle them. So I have to give credit to Lewan in that instance that he knows how to cover up and adjust down the line. So I think Luwan's still a great tackle here, and I think they could do really, really not much better than having him at left tackle. Ryan Tannehill, he's just kind of a solid quarterback. He can get things done with his legs. He plays, really strict within the structure that they give him. Clearly, they do think they want to move on eventually to Malik Willis. That was the plan with that third round selection. But I think it was a good idea. Tannehill's got a little while left. I think it's about 2 years, if I'm correctly, on his contract, which is expensive. I said when I was looking at Willis, I think it's going to be about 2 years before Willis is ready, or potentially ready, quote unquote. It still might not work, right? When you have guys that raw, it just may never click. But if it is going to click with Willis, it's going to click in 2 years, or it should at least. So Willis was a great selection. I love where they took him. I love they didn't reach for him either. He can get things done with his legs. He's super mobile. He's got that cannon arm to stretch the field, which I think they do want to be doing here for the future. It really just comes to his mental side of the game, the processor after the snap, and then knowing when to just take the sack or throw it out of bounds. He not trying to do too much. And I think these are things he can learn from Ryan Tannehill here, who plays super within his structure. So there is hope for the future with this Tennessee Titans team, and I like a lot of the process of what they did, at least this offseason. Depth here is actually pretty decent. They have some answers for some certain looks. If the starters can't get it done, or they need a rest, or if the starters are hurt. So just to keep that in note. They have Westbrook Akine, who's just kind of used to this system. I won't talk about him overly much. He's kind of just the more bigger body, possession kind of catch kind of guy. They traded for Robert Woods. It didn't really cost them anything to do. He's recovered from a ACL injury, so we'll see what kind of Robert Woods we get. I think he still is a very solid player. He could do, much worse walking into the season. I think he's an extremely good blocker, which, for the big man on the left there, I think that's exactly what you're hoping for. So there is some logic to why they went and got Woods, especially with this crew being super young. And with the young crew, getting Treylon Burks, who they are hoping to be the A.J. Brown replacement. Big muscular guy, does really well after the catch, a little more agile than you might think. So there's some fun stuff to have there. I know Burks is having some problems with his asthma right now, but that can be managed, uh, through essence of some psychology therapy, right, to help him mentally overcome with that, on top of other doctors, giving him right prescriptions and knowing when to pull him out. So that can be managed, and I think that is good there. The one I was super high on was Kyle Phillips, though. I loved that as a slot option. I was waiting to see who was going to take him, and I loved the Titans jumping in on that. I think he can be very productive very early on, if they so wish. So to get him here and to with this receiving core who's just really needing talent, and I mean not just talent, but early talent, talent that can produce early on, for the foreseeable future as well. Getting Kyle Phillips where they got him, excellent value. I'm all for it. Tight end, significant improvements here. Getting Austin Hooper on that 1 year, super good. He's a great blocker. He's very familiar with playing in this scheme. Maybe they can actually utilize him a little more than the Browns did. I think I'm all for that as the Titans. And then to back that up with getting Chiga Okonkwo, who I thought is a very polarizing player that needs to be in kind of a West Coast offense to be utilized to his fullest extent, where they can move him around in different blocking and pre-snap looks, and utilize that athletics and the ability after the catch, right? Which I said was, when I was doing the draft, was kind of his thing. To go to the Tennessee Titans of all things, where they did that exactly with Jonnu Smith, sign me up. I'm all for it. I think the Titans nailed that one. And even if they let Hooper go, I think Chiga Kwanko, the way they can utilize him, can actually take that starting tight end role pretty well. Now you have the big man, King Henry, or Derrick Henry is his actual name, coming off injury. He seems like he's doing quite well, coming off a rehab. Seems like he's still quite yoked. No issues there. I expect he'll be productive again. I don't think that ACL injury is actually going to slow him down. I know some people are worried about that. His his style of play did not demand him to be explosive, so there was no real change in that, anyways. Uh, the one, I mean, the one thing you're worried is that there's going to be a re-injury, and that we can't handle, right? I mean, that's going to be completely depending on the doctors and his rehab crew. So that's completely, off his actual ability. But he has a very slow acceleration style of play. His speed comes from hitting top gear, so to speak. And that slow acceleration is what lets him read the holes quite well. He plays super well in these outside zones because of it, because he can actually read it and then finally hit final gear. So if they're really worried about, that ACL injury making him lose something, I mean, he never really had that massive step to begin with. It was just not his play style, so I'm not worried about his production ever slipping. I think he'll be fine this season. You'll still get very good running back play. Defensive front seven, actually very underrated, honestly. I really like the two edges here. I think they're pretty solid, for what they get credit for. They offer stout play. While neither of them are really, star caliber, upper end players, I think, they don't get enough credit. Rashad Weaver is another guy I want you guys to note. I think he's super stout in the run game, and he didn't get too many looks last year, but I think he could really put it together, going into this season, especially if they bring him out early. So keep an eye on that. Linebackers, I like them here as well. I don't know what that touting was of the Tennessee Titans need to get a linebacker this offseason. I was not on that train. Zach Cunningham, I thought that was an excellent waiver pickup for them. He's super used to this scheme, and it showed early. He played well. And then to pair him with David Long and Monty Rice, both other guys who I do like, that are more of that prototypical modern age linebacker size, to take a lot of the coverage as well, because Zach Cunningham can play coverage super well. I'm all for it. I think this is a very solid linebacker crew that fits exactly what Vrabel is wanting out of this team. I don't really see them being the issue here with this team pushing forward. On the D line, Denico Autry, pretty good as well. They can line him up in a number of different spots, but he just plays very stout. He's not extremely, high end player. He doesn't offer extreme explosiveness or rangy athletics or high-end processing, but you can't have that out of every player. This is kind of what Danica Autry is. He is just balanced across the board. He is more leaning towards the pass rushing side, more than the run side, but I wouldn't say he is a poor run defender at all. I actually think he's okay. And then you're pairing him with Jeffrey Simmons, who was a favorite of mine in his draft class. I love Jeffrey Simmons. I was told he has cut some weight, which is fine. I don't think that's actually going to affect his playability at all. I think they're just going to be looking to line him up at 3 tech more or let him line up a little wider, trying to actually get some better angles to rush against these guards who hopefully are lesser athletes than him, right? That's the idea. Simmons is just a great player all around. I really just I love Jeffrey Simmons in every facet of his game. I think he plays the run defense very smart. He knows how to gap control, which is super useful when you're asking a lot of these D linemen in some of these looks. And then to pair that with an actual ability to add pressure and push the pocket on the interior, make the quarterback uncomfortable, that's super valuable. Every elite quarterback you've ever talked to, when they talk about pressure, they all say that pressure from the interior is the worst to deal with because you cannot step up into the pocket like most of these guys like to do to actually drive the ball downfield and buy themselves a second. You can't do that when you have pressure from the interior. You're forced to go either to the right or to the left, which is much more difficult to actually not only just buy time if that's not actually what your skill set is actually designed to. Not everyone's Lamar Jackson, but not only is it difficult, it takes longer to throw the ball. They usually have to dip their arm or move their eyes at least for a split second off of what is going on downfield, so they have to reassess when they re-look back downfield. It's a lot more difficult to deal with, and I think the Tennessee Titans have a premier one in Jeffrey Simmons to create that havoc. So all credit to them. Defensive backs. This is really what separates them for a lot of the guys below. I actually really like this crew. I think Kevin Byard is possibly the best safety at free safety in the entire league. His test, his actual stat numbers may not be the most flashy, but if you look at his grading is super good, and that shows up on tape when you rewatch him. His his ability to break on balls, his ball skills combined with the deep zone, and actually they brought him down the nickel every now and then to play coverage is it's nothing short of elite. It's everything what you could have asked for out of a free safety, and I'm all on the Kevin Byard train. I think he's an excellent player. Amani Hooker, he's played pretty well. His actual grading, I had to go back and look at it. It's not too shabby, honestly. This is the make or break year for him as a safety. So I'm going to reserve some judgment on that. But watching the film back, he played just to me good. He played like a starter. But for that next step ability, what you're going to be looking for at safety, or what the grading seems to support, I need at least the first half of the season to have my thoughts fully done on Hooker coming up. He seems like he's kind of in that almost there range. Corner, I actually really like the corners. They're all super young, so they are going to make mistakes. I don't think there's any kind of doubt about that. Caleb Farley, Christian Fulton, Elijah Molden, these are going to be your starters. All play this scheme perfectly. They are perfect scheme fits. Great ball skills, great ability to break on routes. They all like to play this bump and run, man or hybrid switch kind of back defensive back look, where they'll be kind of jumping in and out, kind of shading their looks. I like it. I like it a lot. I think not only did they solve this last year, but then to on top of that, go and draft Roger McCreary to fill out this crew even more in case of injury or in case you want to come out and dime. Like the dime looks that this defensive back crew can do are extremely threatening if these young guys do get together in the corner group. If they are good to go, the dime looks just be on watch for that. They could honestly come out and dime a lot on those like third and sixes and be super annoying to get anything going. and that will be the way for the foreseeable future if this is a hit. So keep an eye on that. I'm super excited to watch that on them. Special teams and coaching. Special teams are always pretty solid here, and I imagine that'll continue. The teamers themselves are not great. They're probably in the bottom half of the league, if we're going to be honest. So they'll have to actually make up for stuff on offense and defense. The coordinator himself, Ackerman, he's fine. I don't think he's really the issue here. The coordinators, you need more out of them. I'll just say on both the offensive and defensive side, I need more. If I'm going to be completely honest. So they do hold this team back a little. Um, they can correct it. Sometimes these coordinators do take a few years to get into a groove, to actually fix things and understand where the league is going or what direction they're heading into within their certain period of time. But I'll just say for now, you need more out of both of these sides. I have my most help on Bowen on the defensive side, but for both of them, I'd say you need more out of them. Head coach Mike Vrabel, I love Mike Vrabel a lot. I think he's super underrated. He clearly not only learned a lot from Bill and the Patriots side, like he clearly understood the inner workings and the tricky things that organization has done to get around some things. You could actually see it in a game where Vrabel and the Patriots, where he was doing these delay of games against them because he knew it was more beneficial for him. And you can see it's frustrating Bill because Vrabel's figured it out as well. It's like all credit to that. But I think the best thing about Vrabel, coming from that Patriot line, is he is not a carbon copy of those Patriot head coaches. He is his own head coach. He has his own personality. He has his own style. He doesn't try to make the Tennessee Titans the Tennessee Patriots, like we've seen in years past with some of these coaches. That's not how he does it. His players love him. There's really nothing else to say on top of that. I think Vrabel is a super underrated coach, and I think I mean he does do some schematic things for them on the defense, but he takes more of the head, the head honcho role where he kind of organizes everything and gets the team ready and lets his coordinators do their job. I think in that role he is super underrated, and I give Mike Vrabel a lot more credit than I think most people do in this industry. So to summarize, I like a lot of the moves this team has done up to this point, and I do understand the moves they made this offseason. They want to attempt to be competitive now, and they have the firepower to do it. But they also did a lot of accounting for the future, which I really do believe they've actually done so, and I think they've done so pretty masterfully. They've covered a lot of bases that I think most of these teams have struggled to do so in the last couple years, especially with a team like we just talked about with San Francisco struggling to figure out some spots on their O line or in their receiving core. I think the Titans have figured that out, or at least given a chance to figure that out much better than the Niners have done the last couple years. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I'll see you all next time. Later.